Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, suspending foreign loans from countries supporting a probe into the war on drugs.
Pag ang isang bansa ay nagpapahayag ng mga posisyon na makakasira sa ating kasarinlan o sovereignty, ay kailangan talagang putulin natin ang relasyon natin sa kanila.
Reforming the Bureau of Corrections and scrutinizing the Good Conduct Time Allowance law.
The mere fact that there are two or more interpretations merely shows that the law wasn't really very clear to begin with.
Dealing with China.
Kasi yung exclusive economic zone is part of the arbiter ruling which we will ignore to come up with an economic activity.
And saving our farmers and the rice industry. Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan joins us live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. Vice President Leni Robredo expresses disappointment over the suspension of loan and grant negotiations with states that favor or voted in favor of United Nations resolution to investigate the human rights situation in the country. Robredo says the funds could have been used to support programs that will aid Filipinos living below the poverty line. The Vice President says the government does not have enough financial capability to push through with the projects that are backed by the suspended grants. On Saturday, a memorandum from the Office of the President surfaced directing all department heads to suspend negotiations for and signing of all loan and grant agreements with the 18 countries that co-sponsored and voted in favor of the July 11 UN resolution. The memorandum order signed by Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea will affect an estimated 22 billion pesos in fresh loans and grants. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo denied that the president had issued such a memorandum. A survey reveals most Filipinos are happy with the administration's campaign against illegal drugs. The second quarter 2019 Social Weather Station surveys show 82% of adult Filipinos are satisfied with the government's anti-drug campaign. 12% are dissatisfied and 6% are undecided. The survey also reveals the net satisfaction rating of the anti-drug campaign is at excellent, +70. This is the same figure recorded in March. The poll was conducted from June 22 to 26 and was done through face-to-face interviews with 1,200 adults nationwide. In other news, a bold move to ease the situation of local farmers suffering from low prices of unhusked rice or palay. The Agriculture Department says it will double the tariffs on imported rice this harvest season. Carolyn Bonkin has the details.
This 36 peso imported rice is cheaper than most local rice at this stall in Quezon City. Its low price, a tough competition for local farmers struggling to sell unhusked rice or palay at a reasonable price. With more farmers losing money amid historic low palay prices, the Agriculture Department is looking at increasing tariff on imported rice this harvest season. After all, the 2.4 million metric tons of rice imported since rice liberalization took effect in March is beyond what the country needs. Under the Safeguard Measures Act, the Agriculture Secretary may impose additional duties for 200 days if imports are hurting rice farmers. The Federation of Free Farmers Cooperatives says this is good news for farmers.
It will put a brake on further imports, so hindi masyadong lalala yung glut. And then hopefully that will also allow the palay prices to go up.
In an original post that has been taken down, the Agriculture Department says tariff on imported rice from ASEAN countries will increase from 35 to 75% and from 50 to 100% for rice from other countries. In a new statement, DAR says it's looking at least doubling the 35% tariff. The Agriculture Department asked concerned parties to comment on its investigation on imported rice tariff to stabilize supply and palay prices. DAR says tariff changes might take effect by end of the month or in October. But a farmers group says higher tariff just as the harvest season is starting seems a little too late. This should have been done in July.
Most of the imports are already in. No? So it might be a little bit too late for the season. But the big advantage or the importance here is you will at least arrest yung further drop in palay prices. No? And then hopefully by the next season, makarecover na talaga yung palay.
For Bantay Bigas, this won't do much for local farmers without intervention on palay prices.
Hanggat hindi mag-i-intervene ang gobyerno doon sa pricing ng palay natin, hindi makakatulong kasi traders pa rin ang nakapagtatakda kung magkano binibili ang presyo ng palay ng ating mga magsasaka.
Agriculture Group SINAG sees a roughly 11 peso increase in imported rice prices once the government starts collecting more tariff, but assures it won't affect consumers. Local rice prices will be cheaper this harvest season.
More or less, nasa 34 pesos yung bagong harvest. So, yun ang presyo na retail price dapat.
Federation of Free Farmers Cooperative adds harvest this season alone is enough to feed the country for 200 days. Caroline Bonquin, CNN Philippines.
We'll be taking a short break. When we come back, Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan joins us live. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Let's go straight to the source of the story. Liberal Party President and Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan. Sir, good to see you again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let me start with the foreign loans, sir. Malacanang is suspending. The word really is suspending all loans and grants from about 18 countries who signed a resolution to look into the human rights situation in the country. What is the net effect of this, sir?
Well, dalawa yan, ano? Una, yung financial assistance and official development aid. These are in small countries, Australia, UK, Italy, Spain. And they said this is around 20 billion plus. So malaking kawalan yan. But that is not the only loss. You know, this aid agencies of these countries are also, they provide guidance sa mga technocrats ng mga bansa na yun. Information. So yung direct investments nila, apektado rin. Pagka nakita nilang ang information ay, hindi cooperative, may ganitong klaseng mga panggigipit, or so even the direct investments of these countries will have parang the decision to invest here will also be affected. So hindi ganun kasimple. Ang ganitong parang wag na natin tanggapin lahat yan, etc., etc.
You're saying
Plus, we have a huge overseas Filipino population in the UK, in Italy, in Australia. So, there has to be more than just, sabi nga ni Edsel Lagman, Congressman Lagman, parang misplaced pride. And that's most unfortunate. We hope the government will reconsider. Although ang sinabi ata, wala naman daw utos. So, eto na naman tayo.
Yeah, well, I think that was already clarified because there was some confusion in the beginning. Inquirer first broke the story, sir. Apparently, it appeared in the website of the Bucor. Initially, it was denied by Secretary Sal Panelo, but lumabas naman po ito, which is actually the letter signed by Executive Secretary.
And we're actually isolating ourselves more and more.
Actually, that's where I wanted to go, sir. So you pointed out two things. We lose loans and grants. Number two, possible direct investments.
Adverse impact on direct investments from this country.
And the third thing I wanted to find out, sir, what kind of, will this put our image relationship, will it affect it? Will it put it into us? Magiging,
Yes, definitely. Nito? Alam mo, UN yan eh. No matter how you try to wiggle out of it, sooner or later. And in fact, it's not just the UN Human Rights Council. You also have, the rapporteurs, the commissioners of the UN. And then you have the one of Senator Rubio, a very conservative Republican, asking for the release of Senator Laila de Lima. You know, so more and more, you know, there is now a growing sense in the international community to look into what's going on in the country.
But ironically, sir, when you look at how people are seeing the war on drugs of the Duterte administration, 82% are approving of this. It's the latest SWS survey from June 20
I agree.
to 26.
The 82% agree.
8 out of 10.
Approve, except, you know, if you look into the other aspects of the war on drugs, more than 90% believe that the addicts and the, you know, should not be killed.
Dapat buhay. Oo.
And over 80% are afraid they might get, you know, become collateral damage. There is a concern. And our own polling, when we did our deep canvassing, the number one na hindi na magandang nangyayari sa Pilipinas ngayon is araw-araw ang patayan. So, you know, that is on the surface, that they approve of the war on drugs. But underneath that surface, there is a, you know, there is a
Are you saying we're missing the
disconnect.
context?
Yes, I think so. There is a disconnect. One, they don't like the killings. They believe, our citizens believe they should not be killed. Our citizens don't believe the police na nanlaban itong mga ito. In other words, there is that issue of human rights violations and outright murder. And also the concern that they might get caught in the crossfire.
But does it also make you wonder, sir, if that's really the context or the underlying reasons that we should also focus and highlight on, sir, is that kung ganun din po, dapat mas bumaba naman talaga yung satisfaction on the war on drugs because of the various threats.
Well, again, looking at the context, somebody asks you, approve ka ba sa war on drugs? Pag sinabi mong hindi, o di membro ka ng sindikato, sinusuportahan mo, o gusto mo matukhang ka. You know, it's, sa akin, that is a fact. That is a snapshot. 92% approve the war on drugs. But 90+% don't agree that they should be killed.
Okay.
80% are afraid that they might get caught in the crossfire and become collateral damage. So there is, you take that in its entirety. Yes, they approve, except that there are certain things they don't agree on.
Don't just pick out one
Yes, you have to look at it in its...
Now, survey.
Now, if it's different, it's a different case altogether. Pagka sinabing, and 90% believe they should be killed, and 80% feel safe, and
that they will not be collateral damage, then it becomes complementary.
Yes,
to
but
the
in this
war on
case,
drugs.
there is a disconnect.
All right. You mentioned already a while ago, I'd like to put this on air already. It's American Senator Marco Rubio looking at the plight of Senator Laila de Lima on Twitter. He calls on the government to release her unconditionally. Sir, just very quickly, I know you said something about this a while ago. What does this make out of, let's say, the plight of Senator Laila de Lima? Number one, this is not the first time that a legislator from the United States called for her release. There were 6 members of the House, I believe, back in March also called for her release. And there was also, just to add, a bipartisan memo, is it also, which the Senator Rubio is also a part of, sir. Ano pong ibig sabihin nito na merong mga may senador at merong mga congressman sa Estados Unidos na sinasabihan po ang gobyerno natin, kailangan nyo ng pakawalan yan because the charges are bogus. They say.
And then, dilagay natin sa konteksto ng UN Human Rights Council na nagsasabing dapat imbestigahan ng araw-araw na patayan dito sa ating bansa. Nandyan din ang concerns ng yung Iceland Resolution kasama doon. So, there is a growing concern about what's happening in the country. And who shouldn't not be concerned? You know, ang record ngayon, depending on the figures, but at least Malacanang figures of late 2017 or December 2017 was over 20,000 already. So akin, at the minimum, this government has failed to prevent these killings. Diba? And some are saying this is state-sponsored. Just the other day, the president said, inambush na kita, buhay ka pa. So these are, you know, how can we ignore this? How can we look the other way?
And
this is a concern not only of the international community. This is our concern
And
as a nation.
are we not looking into this? Is the Philippines ignoring this?
Well, officially, you know, they're precisely this move to prevent them
Suspend
from,
those.
suspending these negotiations for grants. And, this is, I believe, the step in the wrong direction.
Okay. What about the senators? Are the senators also overlooking this, sir? Kayo?
I wish we could do more. Tatlo na lang kaming minority sa Senate. No? But in fairness to a number of those in the majority, they have also expressed concern. But more and more, I hope, in the coming days, we will be able to speak up even para increase our numbers, our ranks, in really raising these issues. In the end, thousands have been killed. Where do we stand in the face of mass murder? We should ask one another. It's not just an international concern. In fact, the international community is concerned, but this is our concern as a nation and as a people.
We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Sir, I'm going to have to run through a number of topics. GCTA, a new IRR, now specifically saying there are exclusions to this GCTA. Will this once and for all clear the issue?
Well, hopefully, moving forward, but kailangan pa rin merong mga mananagot. No? Hindi pa pwedeng, sorry ha, mea culpa, etc., etc. No? Until people are made to account for their acts, the sincerity of government will be questioned in terms of its avowed desire to rid governance of corruption.
Who should be answerable, sir?
Well, we already said, even before he resigned, that he should be held to account. So that's Faldon and the others. So dapat magpaliwanag, dapat maimbestigahan, at dapat makasuhan.
And how do you feel that it goes back to Senator Laila De Lima and even former Senator Mar Rojas because they were the ones there,
Alam mo,
DILG?
matagal nang ginagawa ng gobyernong ito yan eh. Mula pa noong 2016 hanggang sa ngayon. Pagka mayroong mabahong nangyayari, sisisihin ng Liberal Party, sasabihin may conspiracy, paulit-ulit. No? It's kumbaga gasgas na.
Are you immune to that?
Hindi, well, it's unfortunate that we have to respond, di ba, and precisely defend ourselves. But ako'y naniniwala, sabi nga nila, yung boy who cried wolf, eventually ang taong bayan makikita na rin na, teka muna, di ba, 3 taon na itong gobyernong ito. Pagka mula nung umpisa kami may kasalanan, hanggang ngayon kami pa rin ang may kasalanan.
I'd like to clarify that, though, sir, that you said that Nicanor Faldon should be held accountable. What about all the other ex-Bucor chiefs, such as Senator Bato de la Rosa?
Well, I think he should be able to explain too, made to explain during his time, yung mga napakawalan. So lahat sila, di ba? Na nagpakawala na napakaraming mga heinous crimes convicts.
Would you agree, though, that the law was ambiguous? Hindi ho siya malinaw, meron hong katanungan?
Alam mo, ako simple lang eh, implementation of the law. Diba? Yes, there may be some ambiguity, assuming there is, but there was the Executive Order 935, the Department Order 935. So
Excluding heinous crime convicts.
And in the end, ano ba naman yung ikaw yung hepe? Pakakawalan mo si Antonio Sanchez. Di mo man lang tinanong. Yan ba nagbayad na ng danyos yan? Hindi pa pala nagbabayad eh. Paano mo mapapasok sa good conduct yun? Paano mo masasabing good conduct? Hindi pa nga kinikilala na ang utos ng korte. So it's more an implementation issue, if you ask me. And common sense says, why release Antonio Sanchez? Tatanong ka lang, ito ba nagbayad na? Hindi pa ba? 12 million? Paano natin sasabihin pwede na siyang pakawalan?
All right. Sir, a number of topics, of course, hounding also, happening the past couple of days, especially polio, sir, and the hazing cost, the hazing kay Darwin Dormitory. Sir, I'll start with that. You guys just passed an amendment to the anti-hazing law, and here we are again.
You know,
PMA,
the
cadet, rather.
the PMA hierarchy, leadership, superintendent will have to answer questions. The information I'm receiving is that he had been hospitalized already twice or thrice in the last year.
I heard twice, sir. Yeah.
So that should have already been a red flag. And yet, mukhang nagkaroon ng mga pagkukulang. So they really have to explain. The university, the academy has a lot of explaining to do.
Will hazing ever end, sir?
If you punish the guilty, what happens here is yung mga pinapakawalan pa nga yung mga convict, di ba? Until you have a system of justice that is modernized, that punishes and punishes swiftly, you're going to have more of it.
I guess that's also very, that is very important when you use the word swiftly.
Definitely, because you know, witnesses can be threatened, witnesses can be paid.
And they can get tired.
And true, diba? And you know, it's all stacked up against yung mga mahihirap.
Okay.
So where is justice there?
Sir, polio outbreak after 19 years, polio is back. Has the government, what should government do now? Because we're hearing so many things, sir. There's a strain 1, strain 2, strain 3, and the vaccines are only good, I think, for strain 1. Is this a cause for
Well,
concern?
definitely. And I think our Department of Health should consider this, you know, an emergency situation to merit swift intervention. Government is not helpless. It just has to make sure that it does its job.
Okay, save our farmers. This is really your advocacy, sir. Nung nawala ho kayo sa gobyerno, kayo nga ay naging, di ba,
Full-time.
nagpunta kayo sa bukid. I just want to bring up this picture that I found on your Twitter account, sir. His name is Mang Romeo. He's from Nueva Ecija. Ang sabi niyo po, he started rice farming at 12. He's now 65 years old.
75.
75 rather, is 75 and is still farming and poor, and you say he deserves more. What can be done, sir, and where are you in terms of legislation?
Well, in terms of legislation, we just passed, I was principal author and sponsor, which was a campaign promise in 2016, the Sagip Saka Law, which really is to bring in government as a big brother at this point, and of course the private sector, to mobilize resources around farming communities. Sagip Saka, one of the main salient features is that government now, whether national or local, their procurement of agricultural products will be exempt from the procurement law. They can buy directly sa farmers' organizations with respect to their programs or projects or activities, whether it's relief operations where they need rice, feeding programs where they need vegetables, also rice, their meals, rice allowance, which is part of the benefits of some agencies. Yun, pwede nang direktang bumili, makipag-negotiated contract with accredited rice farmers and fisher folk.
Which means natatanggal po yung mga middlemen.
Mababawasan yung hawak sa leeg ng mga middleman. At hindi pwedeng barat. Ibig sabihin, dapat cost plus. Para naman may konting kita yung ating mga farmers.
That's one way to raise their level of income.
Yes.
What's another way, sir?
Of course, the private sector. You know, ang pinakamalaki pa rin ng, pinakamalalim pa rin ng bulsa ang private sector. You know, the budget, and this is also, of course, another policy direction, we have to increase, not decrease, the budget of the Department of Agriculture. You know, ang ating public works, trillion na ang budget dahil mahalaga ang mga infrastructure. Pero mahalaga din ang pagkain, di ba? Pero bakit ang budget ng Department of Agriculture nabawasan pa? You know, when there was, in 2013, nung nagkaroon ng impasse yung US government, Obama and the Republicans, hindi sila magkasundo, they shut down the federal government. Finally, they opened. Finally, they were able to come to terms and agree. You know, the first bill that was passed was a farm bill. It was $500 billion for 5 years. That's $100 billion worth of federal money for farming annually. And we, what are we giving the farmers? 50 billion? You know, the entire rice industry is 400 billion annually. The coconut industry is another 500, 400 billion annually. And then you give a budget of not even a tenth for your Department of Agriculture, while you have 1 trillion or more for infrastructure. You know, medyo kinakailangan ma-harmonize. Kasi mas mahalaga ang infrastructure, pero mas mahalaga ang pagkain.
Thank you to Liberal Party President and Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan. Good to see you again, sir.
Thank you,
Maraming
thank you.
salamat. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.